welcome back to the podcast. It's 2:24 in the afternoon on a Sunday in Beijing. The weather's changing a little. We're starting to get a little more rain, and the temperature seems to be easing off. It's still early in the year for that, but funny enough, July hasn't been so tough. Let's see what else. The dams are cracking, built between the 50s and the 70s by Mao to redirect water to stop the droughts. They are now, of course, failing because they haven't been maintained well. So, unfortunately, the dams are cracking, and the Three Rivers Dam, of course, largest hydroelectric dam in the world, is warping. And it's kind of scary. And it's destroying millions of lives. Literally millions of people are being affected by this particular crisis. Of course, the Chinese government is playing it down quite a bit. They're saying that don't believe what you read online, that other countries and the internet itself is warping the truth about what's going on in these areas of China. So pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. The dams are fine. All of this information coming down now, of course, about how with countries closing embassies and people burning documents and China retaliating by closing one of the embassies here, I'm starting to think a little bit more about the historical concept of absolutism and the idea that at one time monarchies were absolute. They were, obviously put in by God. I mean, obviously, right? How could you get to be a king if you weren't ordained by God? And so they took absolute power over, if nothing else, their own countries and the people in those countries. And to say things against them was, of course, seditious and would get you what we would call now disappeared. Or, obviously, they might make an example of you and kill you in the public square by beheading you or whatever. Just to remind people what you are and are not allowed to say. Certainly nothing against the king. Oddly enough, I find this to be the dominant characteristic of what appears to be the left side of politics these days. I'm not sure what left and right means, to be honest with you. Either you're right or you're left, and you're red or you're blue, you're conservative or you're liberal, assuming, of course, that there are actually any liberals anymore. Mostly leftists, I'm afraid. It just made me start thinking about how the left seems to want to quash speech. That you're not allowed to say things, that you're not allowed to do things, that they're actually putting forward the elimination of civil rights rules. They're attempting to eliminate civil rights rules in California, the idea that you should be able to hire based on race. Decades of people getting stomped to death by the government and people fighting for the rights of individuals based on not the color of their skin, but the content of their character. And California wants to throw that out, baby, with the bathwater. So I'm starting to wonder what difference it makes what country I live in. Since I usually don't go out and fight the government, what difference does it make where I live? Well, fundamentally, I can only say that right now, I'm happy to be in China because people in the United States overreact and overreact violently. So in the streets, we have politicians allowing perfectly peaceful demonstrations to be overtaken by seditious jackasses who would tear down statues and rile up the crowd and burn buildings with people in them, as in the case of Minneapolis. And we have people who would trespass on private property because they think they're allowed to, and when somebody tells them to go away, they arrest the guy that tells them to go away. In the United States, we have politicians standing around saying, no, we're not going to stop them. They're all peaceful, despite video evidence to the contrary. So you have the mayor of Portland, the mayor of Chicago, the mayor of Atlanta, and the list goes, and the mayor of New York, the big dope, ruining the lives of people like me. So right now, I'm glad I'm not a part of it. But I would like to say this. Let me clear my throat to make sure you can understand me completely. Fuck Antifa. Fuck every violent thug who infiltrated peaceful protests and turned them violent. Fuck every mayor who's not stepping all over these violent protests. Fuck the Marxists who took over Black Lives Matter. Fuck all Marxists and all communists. Fuck you. You ridiculous, horrible people. So, as I've said in the past, thank you for coming. It's always great to have you. I'm in China. These are the China stories. And remember, although I don't suppose I practiced it this time, always be courageous and kind. And we'll see you next time.